Olivia, Emma Carter began, her voice smooth and measured. After 15 years with TechForward, we're restructuring your position. The words fell flat in the sterile conference room, hanging in the air between us. But Emma's tone carried a barely concealed satisfaction, as if she had been waiting for this moment. Beside her, Nina Marshall from Our, with her perfectly rehearsed expression of corporate regret, slid a manila folder across the table. I didn't immediately reach for the folder. Instead, I leaned back in my chair, keeping my face impassive. The sharp clicking of Nina's pen against the folder broke the silence before Emma continued. The company is moving in a new direction, she added, a slight hesitation in her voice, as though the words were foreign to her. Your contributions have been invaluable, but we're consolidating the research division under product development. I nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of her words. But my response was calm, controlled. I completely understand, I said, my voice steady, betraying none of the frustration that simmered beneath. These decisions are never easy. Emma's eyes briefly flickered, a moment of visible relief crossing her features. They had clearly expected tears, anger, or even a desperate plea for my position. But I gave them nothing. My years at TechForward had taught me the value of composure in moments like these. I accepted the folder, finally, without opening it. Inside, I already knew what would be waiting. The standard severance package. 2 weeks for every year of service. Continued health coverage for 3 months. And a list of career counseling resources I had no intention of using. Emma's voice broke through my thoughts as she added, we'll need your keycard, company laptop, and phone before you leave. Your team will be notified this afternoon. My team, the group of brilliant engineers I had personally recruited and mentored over the years. The very team that had developed the distributed processing algorithm now powering TechForward's flagship product. AccountSphere, the accounting software used by over 40% of the Fortune 500. Of course, I said, rising from my chair, forcing myself to smile politely. Is there anything else? They exchanged glances, caught off guard by my composure. Emma was the first to recover, her voice a little more confident now. That's all for now, she said with a forced smile. Thank you for making this professional. I nodded, taking a final glance at the two of them as I turned toward the door. I wasn't angry, I wasn't sad, I was simply done. As I walked back to my office, I passed the glass-walled conference room where the executive team was gathered. I could see CEO Richard Lawson through the transparent walls, gesturing animatedly at a PowerPoint presentation titled, Q3 Revenue Projections. The same Richard Lawson who had taken credit for my algorithm at last year's industry conference, referring to me only as one of our research team members. I closed the door to my office behind me, leaning back against it for a moment. The reality of it all settled in. And then, without hesitation, I pulled out my phone and typed a single message. It's happening. The reply was immediate. Perfect timing. Contracts are ready. Dinner tonight to finalize details? A smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. Today was Wednesday. Friday, I would leave TechForward for the last time. And Monday? Monday would be fascinating. I closed my office door, locking out the noise of the world and taking a deep breath. The weight of Emma's words still lingered in the air, but it was no longer about what they had taken from me, it was about what I was about to take back. I had known this day was coming. In fact, I had been expecting it. A few weeks earlier, an accidental email thread had slipped into my inbox, a thread that was never meant for my eyes. It had confirmed what I'd already suspected. TechForward was preparing to push me out. Just as I had anticipated. They thought I was dispensable, a cog in the machine. But what they didn't know was that I'd already outmaneuvered them. I had been working on a solution long before they even thought of this restructuring. They didn't understand the value of the algorithm I created, the very core of their flagship product. What they failed to realize was that I was no longer just an employee. I was the one holding the key to their future. While they focused on metrics and market share, I focused on what truly mattered, intellectual property. The patent had been filed under my name, not TechForward's. I had spent countless late nights refining the algorithm, enhancing its capabilities, work that was done off the clock, outside of company resources. It was my creation, my brilliance, and I had quietly filed it away, ensuring that the improvements I'd made would be mine and mine alone. That evening, I met Jonathan Hayes at Meridian, an upscale restaurant far removed from the glass and steel walls of TechForward's headquarters. Jonathan, the CEO of Precision Systems, TechForward's biggest competitor, knew what was at stake. He knew the value of discretion. As we sat in the back alcove of the restaurant, shielded by delicate Japanese screens, he didn't waste time. They really did it, he said, shaking his head in disbelief. I suspected they might, but to cut the very person who developed their core technology, it's reckless. I couldn't help but smile. Victor never understood what I actually created, I said, swirling the water in my glass absent-mindedly. He saw the implementation, the user interface, the marketing potential, but the architecture? That was just tech stuff to him. He couldn't see the value beyond the surface. Jonathan nodded, his expression a mix of admiration and disbelief. And now what? Are they going to come after the patent? They can try, I replied, leaning forward, but it's too late for them. I already filed it under my name, years ago. Actually, and I've already secured the licensing rights for Precision Systems. I paused, letting the weight of that sentence hang in the air. In fact, tonight, I'm signing the papers. The deal was done. As soon as I signed, Precision Systems would officially acquire the exclusive rights to my patent. The press release would go out Monday morning, announcing me as their new Chief Innovation Officer. And TechForward? They would have no choice but to either negotiate a costly licensing agreement with Precision Systems or rebuild their entire platform without using the algorithm I'd created. Either way, they were facing a monumental crisis. Before I share what happened next, the moment that left an entire room of journalists in stunned silence, I want to connect with you. My amazing viewers, where are you watching from? Drop your country's flag in the comments below. And if you've ever had to fight for something you believe in, hit that like button, because this story is just getting started. We made a toast that night, Jonathan and I, to new beginnings. But I knew this was more than just a new start for me. This was a statement, one that would echo through the industry. I had taken back what was mine. And soon, everyone would know it. The following days blurred by in a whirlwind of preparation. I spent every waking hour getting ready for my first day at Precision Systems. But I couldn't help but steal moments to reflect on the sheer brilliance of what had transpired. TechForward had no idea what was coming, and their blind spots had been my greatest advantage. But it wasn't just about getting back at them, it was about something deeper. It was about owning my worth, claiming the recognition that was long overdue. Friday came, and I walked out of TechForward's headquarters for the last time. My keycard, once my entry to this fortress, was now useless, and my personal belongings were packed neatly in a cardboard box. The finality of it was bittersweet, but there was a strange sense of freedom in knowing that the next chapter was already written. As I boarded the sleek town car that was waiting to take me to my new life, the weight of the past 15 years fell away. I arrived at Precision Systems headquarters just after 7 a.m. The glass building gleamed in the morning light. But it wasn't the structure that caught my eye, it was the opportunity that lay within it. My corner office had floor-to-ceiling windows, and the view was perfect. As I settled into the chair, the press release went live. Precision Systems acquires exclusive rights to revolutionary processing algorithm. Welcomes Dr. Olivia Brooks as Chief Innovation Officer. My phone buzzed immediately, with notifications flooding in from industry insiders, colleagues, and former associates. News spreads fast in the tech world. And now, I had the attention of everyone who had ever doubted me. But it wasn't just the press that had me on edge, it was the storm brewing at TechForward. At precisely 9 a.m., I got the first text from my former lead developer. Daniel, complete chaos here. What did you do? I smiled, feeling a surge of satisfaction. They had no idea what they were about to face. I quickly typed back. Check your personal email. The rest of the day was a blur, filled with meetings and strategizing. But my mind kept wandering back to that moment, when the storm would hit. And it did. By noon, TechForward's executive team was in full crisis mode. My former colleagues kept me updated as things unfolded. Richard Lawson, The CEO had shown up at the office, only to find his legal and finance teams frantically working to figure out how to handle the situation. The algorithm was at the heart of TechForward's flagship product, and without it, their future was uncertain. They had no choice but to either pay the licensing fees or rebuild everything from scratch. An impossible feat in such a short time. As I sat at my new desk, a feeling of vindication settled in. The decision I'd made to patent my work wasn't about money, it was about power. The kind of power that comes from creating something that can't be taken from you, no matter how hard they try. By the time the press conference went live, announcing my new role in the acquisition of the patent, it was clear, TechForward had already lost. They were scrambling. The investors were beginning to panic. TechForward's stock had dropped by 10% before the market closed. Meanwhile, Precision Systems saw a sharp increase. But the real victory was personal. This was my moment. I wasn't just a background player anymore. I was the one holding the cards. And as the clock ticked down to 6 p.m., I couldn't help but think, this was just the beginning. The fallout was swift. By 10 a.m. the next morning, TechForward's headquarters was in full crisis mode. I could practically hear the panic through the texts and calls that flooded in. Daniel, my lead developer, sent a message that said it all. They're pulling every file. They're freaking out. This is a disaster. The walls of TechForward were closing in. But I was already moving forward. Precision Systems had already secured its place in the market. And now it was only a matter of time before the world knew who was truly responsible for the success of their flagship product. Richard Lawson had thought he could take my work, push me aside, and claim the glory for himself. But now, he was scrambling to avoid the full extent of his miscalculation. I had expected him to respond this way, dismissive, arrogant, underestimating me at every turn. What he hadn't anticipated was the quiet storm I had set in motion. I had made sure every legal loophole was covered, every angle secured, and now he would have to face the consequences. The very thing he thought was his triumph, my algorithm, was now a glaring reminder of his oversight. By noon, it became clear that TechForward was facing a catastrophe. Investors were beginning to make their concerns known. Several top clients had already reached out to Precision Systems, asking if we could handle the transition of their accounts. Word had spread that TechForward's flagship product, AccountSphere, was in jeopardy. Without access to my algorithm, the software was useless. The team at Precision Systems didn't waste time. They were already preparing to integrate the algorithm into their upcoming products, pushing forward with the kind of aggressive strategy I had always dreamed of. The pressure was building on TechForward, and I felt no sympathy for them. The same company that had silenced me for so long was now being torn apart by the very work they had dismissed as just tech stuff. As I sat in my new office, overseeing the first meetings where my algorithm would become the cornerstone of Precision's next generation of products, I couldn't help but think about how everything had changed. The phone calls from TechForward's legal team started coming in shortly after 3 p.m. They wanted to discuss a licensing agreement. I laughed to myself. The irony was almost too perfect. They hadn't thought to protect their intellectual property. And now, they were begging for the chance to pay me for something that should have been theirs from the start. But it wasn't about the money. It was about the principle. They didn't respect me when I was their star. They saw me as replaceable, as just another cog in their machine. And now, with every call, every press release, every moment of victory that Precision Systems claimed, they were learning the hard way what it meant to fail to recognize the value of true innovation. By the end of the day, my team from TechForward had all been contacted. They had offers waiting for them at Precision Systems, and I made sure they knew it. Your future is here, I told them. There's no reason to stick around and watch this mess unfold. They were all in, every last one of them. And just like that, the team I had built, the team that had helped me make history, was now officially aligned with the future I had created. TechForward's leadership wasn't just losing their grip on their product, they were losing everything. Word of the crisis leaked, and by the time the market closed, their stock had dropped another 15%. The investors were starting to pull out. And I was just getting started. The more TechForward panicked, the more I solidified my place in this new chapter of the tech world. And no one, could ever take that away from me. By the following week, the full scope of TechForward's downfall was undeniable. The press had caught wind of the crisis, and articles detailing the company's spiraling stock prices and impending collapse flooded every major news outlet. TechForward's investors, once so confident, now scrambled to salvage what little was left of the company's reputation. I couldn't help but feel a quiet satisfaction as I read through the headlines. TechForward's stock plummets amid algorithm scandal. Will TechForward recover without its creator? All of it circling back to one undeniable truth. The very thing they had discarded was the key to their future. Meanwhile, at Precision Systems, the atmosphere couldn't have been more different. I had entered a world that not only valued my work but recognized my worth. Every meeting, every conversation, was a testament to the respect and trust I had craved for so long. I wasn't just another engineer hidden behind closed doors anymore. I was leading the charge, driving the vision for the company's future. The engineering team was already implementing the improvements to my algorithm, and early tests were showing remarkable results. The efficiency boost I had achieved was even higher than expected, 51% instead of the projected 43%. That was the power of what I had built. And now, Precision Systems was poised to dominate the market. But it wasn't just about the technology. It was about proving something much bigger. It was about showing the world that innovation isn't something that can be taken for granted. Especially when it comes from someone who's been overlooked, underappreciated, and dismissed. In those early days, I took the time to meet with every team member who had been a part of my journey. My old team from TechForward now working alongside me at Precision Systems. We were building something together. Something greater than any of us could have done alone. I made sure they understood that their contributions were just as invaluable as mine. This was our victory, not just mine. The days moved quickly, and soon, the inevitable call came. TechForward reached out, their legal team hoping to negotiate a licensing deal. The terms they offered were laughable. I already knew how this would play out. They were cornered. They had no choice but to pay whatever price I set. And yet, despite the financials, the one thing they would never get back was the acknowledgement of my role in their success. I had already secured that for myself. As I sat across from Jonathan Hayes, my new CEO and unwavering ally, in his spacious office, we discussed the terms. They're offering to buy out the rights, he said, shaking his head with a smirk. But what we're really buying is their desperation. Exactly, I replied, feeling a surge of power. This isn't just about licensing. This is about making sure they never forget who made them successful in the first place. And that was it. The deal was done. The press release went out the following morning. And TechForward, in a last-ditch effort to salvage their dignity, publicly acknowledged me for the very algorithm they had once stolen from me. But the damage had already been done. The investors knew the truth. The public knew the truth. And I had built something far more valuable than any patent or paycheck. I had built a legacy. The real victory, though, came when I finally stood before an audience of industry leaders, journalists, and developers at the National Technology Innovation Conference. As I delivered my keynote address, I spoke not just about technology, but about the importance of protecting and valuing innovation in a world that often overlooks it. I shared my journey, my struggle, and the lessons I had learned about fighting for recognition, not just from others, but from myself. When the applause finally died down, I realized that this was more than just a career milestone. It was the moment when I truly understood the power of owning my worth and never backing down from claiming it. And as I left the stage, the full weight of my journey settled in. TechForward's stock was still sinking, and my new company was soaring. The algorithm was the beating heart of Precision Systems' success, and the world was finally starting to take notice of who I was, and who I had always been. A force to be reckoned with. A year had passed since the pivotal moment when TechForward's CEO, Richard Lawson, had unceremoniously pushed me out the door. In that time, everything had changed, both for me and for the industry. Precision Systems had grown exponentially, its products now at the forefront of a technological revolution. AccountSphere, the very software TechForward once prided itself on, was now powered by my algorithm. And the world had begun to understand its true value. But the most gratifying part was knowing that it wasn't just about business success. It was about something far more profound. Sitting in my sleek corner office, overlooking the city below, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. I had been told my age would be a hindrance. I had been told my gender would hold me back. I had been told I was replaceable. But the truth was, none of that mattered. What mattered was my brilliance, my commitment to my craft, and my refusal to let anyone define my worth but me. That was the true turning point. Not when I patented my algorithm or when TechForward's stock crashed. Not when I signed a deal with Precision Systems. The turning point was when I realized that I no longer needed their validation to believe in myself. I had always known what I was capable of. I had always known my value. I just needed the world to catch up. As I sat in the boardroom with my team, outlining the next phase of innovation for our company, I couldn't help but think of all those who had doubted me. Their disbelief had fueled me. Their lack of faith in my potential had been the spark that ignited this fire. Now, as I looked at the team I had built and the company we had become, I knew that every setback, every moment of being overlooked, had been worth it. This was my time. This was my victory. The press had finally stopped questioning my ability to lead. They no longer saw me as a token or a niche player. I had built something real, something undeniable, and the industry was starting to take note. Not because of my story, but because of what we had accomplished. Precision Systems had moved from being a contender to a dominant force. And it wasn't just due to my algorithm, it was because of the culture of respect and value we had cultivated within the company. One afternoon, not long after my keynote at the National Technology Innovation Conference, I received a call from the newly appointed CEO of TechForward. Richard's replacement. He was polite, respectful even, acknowledging the mistakes of the past and requesting a meeting to discuss a potential partnership. It was almost surreal, after everything that had transpired, after everything they had taken from me. They were now the ones asking for my help. I agreed to the meeting. But not out of spite. I wasn't interested in revenge. What I was interested in was using my experience to help reshape an industry that had so often failed to recognize its creators. I wanted to be a part of the change, so that no one else would have to go through what I had. As I entered the meeting room with my new team from Precision Systems, I couldn't help but feel a sense of closure. It was no longer about TechForward. It was no longer about proving myself. It was about something much bigger, about changing the way the tech industry valued innovation and creators. The door was finally open, not just for me, but for countless others who had been sidelined, underestimated, and ignored. And as I stood up to deliver the final thoughts of the meeting, I realized that this was my legacy, not just in the products I had created or the patents I had filed, but in the movement I was helping to lead. I wasn't just changing the way one company operated, I was changing the way the entire industry viewed those who made the real contributions. The industry would never be the same again. And neither would I. As Olivia stood by the window, gazing out over the city, she didn't just see a bright future for herself, she saw the change she had brought to the entire tech industry. Companies had no choice but to change the way they viewed creators. The quiet forces behind innovations that shaped entire industries. Olivia had proven that recognition is never too late, and that those with true vision will always find their place in the spotlight, no matter how long it takes. But Olivia's journey wasn't just about personal triumph. It was about sharing that success and creating opportunities for others. She understood that true success wasn't just about individual achievements, but about the collective prosperity of her team and the people who stood beside her. She had proven that it's not just about overcoming obstacles, it's about lifting others as you rise. And as she stepped out of her office, ready for a new day at Precision Systems, Olivia sent one last message to those who had supported her along the way. The ones who believed in the value she brought to the table. This wasn't just a new beginning, it was a victory for everyone who believed that creators, no matter the odds, deserve to be recognized. Before we wrap up this story, I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you who's been watching and supporting this journey. If you found the lessons in this story meaningful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on other inspiring stories. We're so excited to share this journey with you. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And share this story with someone who you think would resonate with its message. Thank you for being part of our community.